Bomma le botate, molokoloko wa dirutegi o tla tsena mo nakwaneng ye kopana. Le kgopelwa go ema.
Dames en here, die akademiese prosesie sal nou inbeweeg. U word versoek om asseblief op te staan.
Ladies and gentlemen, the academic procession will now enter. You are kindly requested to stand.
By virtue of the authority entrusted to me, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees with all associated rights and privileges will be conferred on the candidates whose names appear in the program. Please take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, we request you to join us in a silent prayer or meditation to give thanks to the achievements of our students. Thank you very much. I'd like to welcome the Registrar of the University, Professor Caroline Nicholson, the Dean of the Faculty of Natural and Agricultural Sciences, Professor Barend Erasmus, the Deputy Deans, Professor Viresh Maharaj and Professor Paulette Bloomer, and of course, Mr. Siboto, who is responsible for postgraduate recruitment. All academic and professional services staff and our soon-to-be graduates, parents, guardians, sponsors, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome you to this spring graduation ceremony at this great University of Pretoria. And thank you for being here to celebrate with us the achievements of our graduating students on a day that that truly represents the finishing line and a moment to stop, look back, and reflect on everything that has been achieved. It has indeed been an arduous journey for many. We have 196 students are graduating from the Faculty of Natural and Agricultural Sciences today. Every one of you can be proud of your achievement. You've done a lot. You personify the triumph of the human spirit, having shown dedication and endurance coming through the most difficult times. The mountains have been climbed to get here, and today will be certainly one of those excellent moments for you, where we look back at the challenges and changes that you have gone through as part of your life. What you have achieved, a qualification from the University of Pretoria, a leading university in South Africa and globally, is a passport to an exciting future. By a passport, I don't mean you should leave the country now. You know? Just stay here and do what you have to do. And the faculty is the largest in the continent of Africa, and we are renowned for expertise in forestry and agriculture, food systems, biotechnology, life sciences, mathematical and statistical sciences. And being home to more than 6,500 undergraduate and postgraduate students, and actually presenting degrees from a range of the proverbial A to Z, that is from actuaries to zoologists. This renowned diverse faculty is larger than some of the local universities, and it has a track record of recognized research achievements with more than 200 NRF-rated scientists being formally, within our ranks. And it is quite a prestigious thing for an academic to be through that kind of rating. And many of our faculty academics and researchers are recognized globally, and we boast 8 NRF A-rated researchers, and the remaining 192 are in different categories, whether it's a P-rated scientist or C-rated or B-rated. Now, the niche focus areas for the NAS faculty, as we know it, is agriculture, with widening ranging expertise in everything from crop breeding to food security, big data and data science, including bioinformatics and mathematical modeling and bioengineering and biosciences, environmental sciences, biodiversity, conservation through to hazardous modeling. We're also known for, infectious diseases, both for human and veterinary sciences. We collaborate. And infectious diseases, of course, physical sciences, radioastronomy, green chemistry, drug discovery, and so forth. Also traditional medicines and natural products, including bioprospecting and medicinal plant science. This is just a snapshot, ladies and gentlemen, of some of the planet and life-saving knowledge being created by this thriving faculty. And this faculty is made of curious, ambitious, dedicated, committed individuals who make a difference locally and globally. And to our graduates today, because we are here to celebrate you, thank you for your unique contribution to the NAS faculty and your continued excellence, and more broadly to the University of Pretoria in all of its varied activities, including the support that you have been receiving throughout the years. And wherever you are venturing out into the world of work or continuing your studies in some shape or form, we know that you have what it takes to be strongly experienced, and you have experienced what the key drivers and collaboration agents and what positive change they bring to your life. And you have the huge power in your hands now. But this power should not be abused. It should be harnessed, you know. And you are among a small proportion of matriculants in South Africa who successfully gained university education. And you are a graduate of the University of Pretoria. And we celebrate you, we celebrate your achievement, we celebrate your success. And we marvel at how we have been able to navigate the disruptions of COVID-19 and have worked together as a community to normalize trends like online learning, hybrid learning, and anything in between. But here you are today, and we celebrate your achievement. And we of course, are grateful that the university was able to achieve a virtually seamless transition to remote learning. And while the days of mask wearing and keeping our distance are way behind us now, we appreciate the resilience that you have built over time. And now it's the ability to pivot are some of the silver linings. And particularly in this faculty, there were many challenges because some of the work that you do is in laboratories, and you have to do that kind of world-class work there. And as we look at the PricewaterhouseCoopers 2019 report titled Workforce of the Future 2030, the global trends and challenges and African realities, it lists a number of top generic skills that we need for the future. Sense making is one of them, social intelligence, adaptive thinking, strong people management, group coordination, judgment, negotiating, decision-making skills, cross-cutting competencies, computational thinking, new media literacy, transdisciplinarity, a design mindset, and of course, virtual collaboration. So we are still relevant as human beings, even as we may have artificial intelligence that we have to embrace in order to survive. And we are sure that your education at UP has helped you develop many of these competencies, together with the entrepreneurial skills, now widely recognized as a critical component of higher education. Further to preparing students for success in their fields, our vision has always been to produce graduates who are socially conscious, who are active citizens, who are responsible citizens, and who address societal issues as they emerge. And this is where impact comes, that we as the University of Pretoria, consider to be our mantra. You should be able to demonstrate what you are good for and what impact you are making as you have gone through the training and all of these other things. We know that even beyond the boundaries of knowledge production comes the wisdom and responsibility to apply our knowledge and skills to benefit all. And as I conclude, and so despite all the challenges we face, and we will continue to face these challenges, they never really stops, it seems. We live in a global community where there are many, many challenges that affect us in very direct ways. But I am excited for the future, particularly for the younger generation. I'm old. I'll be out of here in no time. I'll be out of here in no time. But I'm very excited to see the possibility that there's so much that can be achieved, and we just need to have the right mindset to make it work. We were able to adapt. Here's load shedding, here's generators, they're dying all the time. Of course, we apologize for that to you and all our guests, but it is one of those things where we have to adapt to challenges as they emerge, especially if they are not of our creation. Now, there is no better time to think about where we have come from and where we are now and what the priorities are going forward. And we ask these questions as individuals, and we ask these as a university community of which you will always be part of. Remember, you will now be alumni of the university, and you will also be making some money. So remember us. Just remember us, when you start making a little bit of money, because you'll be helping a generation of other students, and you know the hardships. I'm not going to belabor the point. And universities, we exist to educate, and our graduates need to deeply understand, the past and the present, and of course, a proactive response towards the future. And as a new generation of knowledge leaders in society, you are part of this journey now. It's not a very short journey. And it demands excellence, it demands a creativity, and I'm sure that you will be up to the task. And as I'm closing, I'm quoting Professor Peter Cochrane, OBE, from the University of Suffolk. And he's from the School of Engineering, Arts, Science, and Technology. And he says, I wasn't born to be a spectator, just watching the world go by. I was born to be a doer, a change agent, an improver of the status quo. So it's a fitting motto for you as graduates. And we wish you the greatest success and happiness in your lives and all the things that you will be doing. We will want to read about you, with positive news and inventions and innovations. And we look forward to keeping in touch with you. As I say, we welcome you in the alumni community, but remember the money issue. Thank you. And I request the Dean to introduce to me the candidates present whose names appear in the program.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the supervisors will now introduce the doctoral candidates.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Ms. Keynote Adeosun, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with the thesis that is titled Modulation of Virulence Factors in Bioconforming Klebsiella pneumoniae via selected medicinal plants and phytochemical compounds prepared under my supervision. The doctoral candidate investigated the antivirulence activities of selected indigenous South African medicinal plants against multi-drug resistant Klebsiella pneumoniae by employing in vitro, in silico, and in situ and molecular techniques. The study involves screening of studied plant extracts and secondary metabolites for antibacterial, antivirulence, and antibiofilm activities against Klebsiella pneumoniae. And this visualized using a scanning and atomic
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Abdul Raouf Idris Ahmed Ali, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor.
I hereby confer the degree, Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Daba Fioni Bakon, who has complied with the requirements for the degree of Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Enhancement of Electrochemical Capacitors of Porous Carbon from Cross-Linked Polymers through Hydroatoms and Cobalt Incorporation, prepared under my supervision and co-supervision of Professor Balangom. The candidate in her thesis, a simple hydrothermal method followed by one-step activation, was used to synthesize high porous carbon from cross-linked polymers with improved physical and chemical properties. Nitrogen phosphorus co-doping and cobalt doping approach were used to enhance the as-prepared carbon electrochemical performance. The synthesized porous activated carbon materials have a great charge storage ability and good electron transfer. Further, the presence of nitrogen and phosphorus and cobalt provide pseudo-capacitance behavior and enhance the wettability at the electrode-electrolyte interface. The electrochemical performance of symmetric devices revealed good specific energy and power in the range of 19.5 to 30 watt-hour per kilogram and 400 to 401 watt-hour per kilogram respectively. This
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
This study successfully proved the formation of magnesium-containing products during the beneficiation of diamond mine residues. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate. Congratulations.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Luke Mbenizi, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled The Use of Hyphenated Analytical Techniques to Isolate and Characterize Antiviral Compounds Against SARS-CoV-2 from South African Medicinal Plants, prepared under my supervision with Dr. Panakosi Moyo as co-supervisor. In his thesis, the candidate interrogated a subset of South African medicinal plants in pursuit of novel antiviral agents against SARS-CoV-2 virus. The candidate identified novel antiviral natural products with drug-like potential against the virus using advanced analytical techniques. The work identified antiviral compounds from the yellowwood Podocarpus henkeli, whose presence may provide insight into the tree's ecological role. The study led to the patenting of a semi-synthetic process to convert a natural compound in vitro compound from African ginger into a potent antiviral drug. This led to the first report of compounds with in vitro activity originating from South African plants. The work significantly contributes and provides novel insights into using South African plants in developing novel antiviral compounds. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree to the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Kennedy Kalundu, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled The Development of an Integrated Modelling Framework for the Dualistic Beef Sector in Namibia, prepared under my supervision with Professor Johan Kirsten as co-supervisor. In his thesis, the candidate developed an integrated partial equilibrium model that captures the dynamics of supply and demand in the dualistic beef cattle market in Namibia. The candidate shows that the developed model generates baseline projections and simulates the possible impact of various future scenarios on supply and demand, offtake rates, pricing, and margins in formal and informal beef and cattle sectors. The candidate illustrates the importance of incorporating the dualistic nature of commercial and communal cattle and beef subsectors, which enhances the partial equilibrium model capacity to capture the real dynamics at the farm and industry level. However, the candidate also observes that the outcome from the model simulation presents mixed results and simulates smaller impacts from exogenous shocks during the scenario analyses than expected for policy formulation. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Ayubo Campango, who has complied with the requirements for the degree of Philosophia Doctor with a thesis entitled Characterization of Mosquito Community Assemblages and Vector Species Ecology to inform control interventions at hotel settings in Zanzibar. It was prepared under my supervision and with Professors Peter Furu, Karen Skiola, and Michael Alifranges as co-supervisors. The candidate defined the structure, dynamics, and environmental drivers of mosquito assemblages in hotel compounds on the southeast coastal region of Zanzibar Island. He found that many mosquito species share breeding resources, with discarded plastic bottles filled with rainwater being a keystone breeding resource. Important vectors of mosquito-borne diseases were abundant, and there was evidence for insecticide resistance through novel genetic mutations in the mosquito Aedes aegypti. Ayubo used this information to design environmentally friendly mosquito management interventions for hotel settings, with an emphasis on the removal of water-holding containers and waste rather than the use of insecticides. Ayubo has shown how poor management of plastic waste is not just an environmental, but also a human health concern in a region that is highly dependent on tourism. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request that you confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associate rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce you, Raymond Johannes Lowe, who has compiled with the requirements for the degree of Philosophy Doctor with a thesis entitled Synthesis, Electronic Structure, facilitated by computational modeling. The application of Bian complexes in catalytic dimerization and hydrofunctionalization, transformations of alkene and alkyne substrates were investigated. The best catalytic performance is demonstrated for alkyne hydrothioylation. In addition, the catalytic electrochemical reduction of carbon dioxide was probed with promising electrochemical interactions with CO2 observed under aprotic conditions. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you John Lubari, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophia Doctor with thesis titled Iron Bioavailability, Nutritional and Health Promoting Properties of Extruded Sorghum Porridge fortified with baobab fruit, moringa leaves, and bambara groundnut, prepared under the supervision of Professor J.B. Dodu, with myself and Professor John Taylor as co-supervisors. In his thesis, the candidate explored food-to-food fortification and extrusion as strategies to augment the nutritional and health-promoting properties of whole-grain sorghum-based porridge. Using in vitro chemical and tissue culture techniques, the candidate demonstrated for the first time that extrusion cooking can enhance iron uptake via ferritin formation. The porridge exhibits antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, anti-diabetic, and anti-obesity properties as they are rich in phenolic acid and their esters, flavonoids, and their glycosides. The approaches developed in these stages provide insights that are vital for addressing the double burden of malnutrition and diet-related non-communicable diseases. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Londiwe Mbuza, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy I Doctor with a thesis entitled Haploid-Inducer Development by CRISPR-Cas9-Mediated SNH3 Gene Modifications in Ailanthus ornis, also known as sunflower, prepared under the supervision of Dr. Bridget Crampton and myself. In her thesis, the candidate applied CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing as part of the development of haploid-inducing lines in sunflower. Sunflower, ranked third worldwide as oilseed crop, has no commercial double haploid induction process to expedite breeding programs and accelerate new elite variety development. In vitro culture is also difficult in the species. This study focused on the introduction of specific modifications to the sunflower SNH3, an essential gene for centromere function, using CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technologies delivered by a virus-based delivery system. The purpose of these changes is to produce non-edited haploid or double haploid progeny when the inducer is hybridized with a wild-type plant. The work illustrated the potential of virus-based systems for the delivery of gene editing technologies in recalcitrant crops such as sunflower. To our knowledge, this is the first successful report of gene modifications in sunflower using CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing through homologous directed repair. The work lays the foundation for sunflower improvement through genome editing. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Lake Makubele, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Doctor of Philosophy with a thesis titled Effects of Forest Proximity and Socio-Ecological Determinants on Tree Species Composition, Diversity and Carbon Stocks in the Vembe Biosphere Reserve in South Africa, prepared under my supervision with Dr. Mulu Araya as co-supervisor. In this thesis, the candidate studied the influence of distant levels on resource use and the associated impact on the tree species diversity, composition, and carbon stocks in a traditional agroforestry landscape. In these landscapes, protected or conserved forests alone cannot control biodiversity loss and environmental threats. As overharvesting increases, the traditional agroforestry landscapes become low in tree species diversity and species richness and diversity, and are highly dominated by exotic species with poor productivity and ecological functions. The study finds a need to consider the distance between human settlements and proximate forests as a critical factor in resource harvesting and biodiversity conservation.
The study also developed a tree species richness augmentation schematic framework to infuse scientific knowledge into restoring the traditional agroforestry landscapes and ecological infrastructure. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Mandy Messel, who has complied with the requirements of the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Fungal Community Interactions in the Eucalyptus grandis phalosphere, prepared under my supervision and with the co-supervision of Professor Sanushka Naidu and Dr. Martin Kemmler. In this thesis, the candidate used molecular approaches in a novel and powerful way to analyze the diversity and functions of eucalyptus inhabiting fungal communities. Highly diverse and metabolically active communities were discovered in the healthy tissues of eucalyptus trees using metabarcoding and metatranscriptomics data. And these were shown to differ in activity, but not diversity, between resistant and susceptible clones. Fungal communities surrounding leaf galls of the insect pest Leptocybe invasa are shown to decrease in fungal diversity with an increasing insect infestation level. And finally, using a genome-wide association study approach, host gene regions that are associated with the diversity of its fungal community are identified, paving the way to understanding the interaction between the host and the fungal community at a more mechanistic level. This thesis lays a foundation for developing this system into a model for understanding tree phalosphere fungal communities. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce you to Rachel Isabel Makandawire, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Diversity of Fusarium and Mite Species Associated with Malformed Secession Chordatum Inflorescences, prepared under my supervision with Professor Emma Steenkamp, Professor Mike Wingfield, and Dr. Nirman Yilmaz. In her thesis, the candidate investigated the role of the fungal genus Fusarium, as well as a mite species in floral malformation of indigenous waterberry trees. The candidate identified a large diversity of Fusarium species from both healthy and malformed inflorescences, confirming that the indigenous flora is a reservoir for species, with species residing in the Fusarium pegyroides species complex only present on malformed inflorescences. The candidate also described a novel species, Fusarium syzyginum, which represents the first taxon to be described from this niche. In addition, the candidate identified two dominant groups of mite species that was only present on malformed inflorescences. The work presented in this thesis provides significant insight into the causes of Syzygium chordatum floral malformation. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confirm the degree on the candidate.
I hereby. Are you good? I confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all the associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Matumbo Safora Mianda, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Antiplasmodial Potential of South African Medicinal Plants and Phytochemical Investigation of Aloe malati, Torreya obliticifolia, Artemisia afra for the identification of the active compounds, prepared under my supervision with Dr. Panakosi Moyo as co-supervisor. In this thesis, Antiplasmodial Potential of South African Medicinal Plants and their phytochemical investigation, the candidates studied a subset of South African medicinal plants retrieved from the University of Pretoria Plant Repository. 256 extracted samples, formatted in 96-well deep well plates, were readily available for high-throughput biological screening and were produced and screened against Plasmodium falciparum, leading to the identification of 42 antiplasmodial hits. The 3 plant species were selected for the isolation and identification of the active compounds, anthraquinones, limonoids, sesquiterpenes, and flavonoids with good antiplasmodial activity were isolated, and their chemical structures were determined for all 3 species with good antiplasmodial activity relative to chloroquine. These compounds have the potential to be developed as antimalarial agents. This study provides the impetus for the continued search for antimalarial drugs from natural resources. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree to the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Deborah Louisa Narmensa, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Characterization or Characterizing Some Mechanisms of Iron Homeostasis in Selected Armillaria Species. This was prepared under my supervision and with Professor Brenda Wingfield as co-supervisor. In her thesis, the candidate investigated mechanisms utilized by selected armillaria species for iron homeostasis using genomics, metabolomics, and proteomics. A review was conducted on the status and technologies used for armillaria genome projects. This was used to develop a practical guide for basidiomyces seeds and other diploid and dikaryotic fungi genomic projects. One genome of an armillaria isolate from Zimbabwe was sequenced. This resource was used for proteomic evaluation of the isolate in response to iron. Conducted bioinformatics and comparative genomics analysis and bioassays provided the first records of NRPS-dependent siderophore synthetase gene clusters and siderophore biosynthesis by armillaria species. The study is also the first record of 2 NRPS-independent siderophore synthetase gene clusters in fungal genomes. The study further highlights potential novel avenues for controlling armillaria root and shoot rot disease, which affects diverse plants in agroforestry worldwide. Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Phyllis Ndungu, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Comparative Analysis of On-Farm Greenhouse Gas Emissions from Smallholder Crop Livestock Farming Systems in Sub-Saharan Africa, a case study in Kenya, prepared under the supervision of Dr. Detoy and with Drs. Gupi and Takahashi as co-supervisors. In this thesis, the candidate developed region-specific enteric methane emission factors for cattle in Kenya using primary on-farm cattle activity data. This gave rise to one of Kenya's first life cycle assessments on smallholder crop livestock production systems. This study is timely due to the increasing concern about the global environmental impact of livestock production systems, especially in developing countries. With this foundation, the candidate was able to develop a simplified approach for producing IPCC Tier 2 enteric emission factors for ruminants. The findings will not only help show trends in emission reductions in ruminant production systems, but also guide researchers and policymakers on areas of prioritization in developing mitigation strategies. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce you to Elisa Paul, who has complied with the requirements of her degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled Ecology and Management of Bathyculia distincta, also commonly known as the two-spotted stingbug, in macadamia orchards in South Africa, prepared under my supervision with Professor Bernard Slippers, Professor Brett Hurley, as well as Professor Jeremy Allison as co-supervisors. In her thesis, the candidate investigated different aspects of this Pentatomidae species using an interdisciplinary approach in order to improve the integrated pest management program of this important macadamia pest. The candidate demonstrated an absence of genetic differentiation in South Africa, which are likely linked to the expansion of the macadamia industry. The candidate also demonstrated a decrease in the susceptibility of this pest towards insecticide pyrethroids. In terms of development of alternative control methods, the candidate characterized the alarm pheromone of the species, and pheromone-baited tests and traps were tested in the field. With 3 publications and various conference presentations, the work presented in the thesis represents a significant advance in our understanding of this pest. The thesis provides information vital for the development of future management tools and the understanding of fundamental mechanisms in Pentatomidae. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confirm the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Mr. Poker David Wetzi, who has complied with the requirements for degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis entitled Fragmentation Coagulation Equations with Growth, prepared under the supervision of Professor Banasiak and Professor Shindin as co-supervisor. In this thesis, the candidate studied continuous fragmentation coagulation equation with transport subject to homogeneous McKentrick von Foster boundary conditions. The theory of semigroup of linear operators, particularly the Miadera-Dash perturbation theorem, was used to show the existence of semigroup solutions for the linear transport fragmentation equation. The candidate used the smoothing property of the semigroup in the analysis of the complete transport fragmentation coagulation equation, which is treated as a Lipschitz perturbation of the former. Positive local classical solutions are established under mild restrictions on the model coefficients. Further, under additional conditions, the global in time existence is proved. Finally,
a systematic technique is developed for obtaining closed-form solutions to continuous transport fragmentation equations with homogeneous boundary conditions and power law coefficients. New solutions for the constant linear decay or growth coefficients are presented. The candidate shows that the technique extends to some cases of growth fragmentation equation with Kendrick-von Foster boundary conditions. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Morney Tolmi, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophy Doctor with a thesis titled The Potential Antidiabetic Properties of Purple Tea, Camellia sinensis, prepared under my supervision with Professor Megan Bester as co-supervisor. The candidate made significant contributions to exploring affordable and readily available compounds that prevent and manage type 2 diabetes. It was shown that commercial purple teas and compounds found in purple teas possess potent antidiabetic activity by inhibiting starch hydrolyzing enzymes, decreasing lipid accumulation and increasing cellular glucose uptake without any toxic effects on several cell lines. The study successfully elucidates the antidiabetic mechanism of action underlying the purple tea and its metabolites. This contribution by the candidate adds significantly to the existing knowledge in this field. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I introduce to you Abraham Jusea Rian van der Westhuizen, who has complied with the requirements for the degree Philosophiae Doctor with a thesis titled Development of a Waste Management Process for Naturally Occurring Radioactive Material in the South African Mining Industry, prepared under the supervision of Professor Johan Malherbe and with Dr. David de Villiers and myself as co-supervisors. In this thesis, the candidate investigated the national management of mine residues that may contain detrimental concentrations of naturally occurring radioactive isotopes in the current national regulatory regime. An initial literature review of national and international principles, regulations, and guidance documents allowed the development of a theoretical solution, a radiological risk management protocol for mine residues. The protocol provides direction for identifying, screening, assessing, and classifying waste to ensure appropriate site-specific management of current, legacy, and future mining residues, ensuring effective protection of humans and the environment against the radiological hazards of naturally occurring radioactive material. Radiological safety assessments following international and local theoretical models for occupational, public, and environmental exposures from a copper mining and beneficiation facility are applied to validate the protocol and to demonstrate compliance with national radiological criteria. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, I request you to confer the degree on the candidate.
I hereby confer the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all its associated rights and privileges on the candidate.
Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the degree requirements for the degree Master of Agriculture in Extension. Talent Ndige. Rural Development, Karabo Lenguabala. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Consumer Science, Nomzamo Marule. Clothing Management, Sinkobile Sihlobo. In Food Management, Lowell Ryan. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science, Bioinformatics. Tiffany Duplessis. Biotechnology, Carla Buitendag. Kevin Skeepers. Edwin Wanjofu with distinction. In Chemistry, Thanesia Govender with distinction. Amos Mosupi. Nkobile Mtembu with distinction. Napo Ntsasa. Wilmay Putter with distinction. Giselle van Niekerk with distinction. In entomology, Eileen Engelbrecht with distinction. Idea Makowe. Innocent Rakubu with distinction. Onkgopotse Siabi with distinction. In financial engineering, Yashin Gopi with distinction. Forest Management and the Environment, Walter Msitsini. Fridar Nchengila. In genetics, Caitlin Fourie with distinction. Chiamo Pacalazzane. Geoinformatics, Nasipi Nkoliso. Sisipo Ngebe with distinction. No, you can go. In geology, Luzuka Chia. Selby Sebola. In mathematics, Letlogonolo Mabena with distinction. In meteorology, Cholanang Ramopo with distinction. Microbiology, Mable Baluka. Siobhan Besaidnout with distinction. Venolia Dunkey. Lucanio Macabane with distinction. Gina Roebuck with distinction. D. Twiddy with distinction. In physics, Craig Becure with distinction. Senserere Kgalema with distinction. In Water Resource Management, Promise Dlamini. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Agriculture in Agricultural Economics. Mercy Buanaisa. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Agriculture in Animal Science, Animal Breeding and Genetics. Rendani Madula. Animal Nutrition, Gerardus Klaassen with distinction. Emanuela Sarimanolis. Clinton Chingilani. In livestock production, Timothy Chilemba. In production physiology and product quality, Ntabiseng Masemola. Mr. Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Agriculture in Horticulture. Monique Senekal. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Agriculture in Plant Pathology. Shannon Genvi. Tumisang Mokhobu. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidate have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Agriculture in Soil Science. Sarah Hoyer with distinction. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidate have complied with all the requirements for the degree Master of Science in Mathematical Statistics, Advanced Data Analytics. Luandri Potgieter. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidate have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Agricultural Science Honours, Crop Science. Zinhle Mtetwa. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science Honours in Financial Engineering. Joel Kabongo. Plant Science, Marie Potgieter. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science. Zara Ghani. Rayolin Govender. Jacqueline Harvey. Alicia Hubert. Sanam Maharaj. Pauline Mashaba. Halaletsang Murake. Bongani Nyide. Dakalo Chivundu. Actuarial and Financial Mathematics, Larry Chakamanga. Nathaniel de Swart. Ruth de Tooy. Johannes Grobler. Enoch Kazembe. Rosina Ntwabe. Lesego Mokoena. Homolemo Mpahlele. Ellen Ndoro. Tufara Ngidi. Andrew Ray. In biochemistry, Niyat Iyop. Nompumelelo Masumbuka. Palesa Mofokeng. Komotso Senyuamadi. Dean van Heerden. Biotechnology, Ashwarya Chetty. In chemistry, Elizabeth Baloy. Kolane Khalela. In engineering and environmental geology, Riabetswe Mutle. Environmental sciences, Keletso Mafane. Robin van Wyk. In genetics, Chumiso Chomo. Dana Depi. Alison Heppelston. Humpo Murati. Geoinformatics, Chiamo Moropa. Geology, Nontokozo Hlongwane. Malekubane Mahlase. Tabang Makafola. Chehofatso Munama. No. Thanks. Ishmael Msitsa. Tembisile Msomi. In human genetics, Elizabeth Beitel. Uwami Mahlangu. Zimazile Ndlovu. Koketso Ramatlodi. Samkelesiwe Shongwe. Frans Stander. In human physiology, Jamie Gopal. Talamo Makhaba. Lebo Muabelo. Human Physiology, Genetics and Psychology, Amy Badenhorst. Edrich Kutzer. Kathleen Ann Krodas. Anri Esterhuizen. Patricia Kobe. Letladi Machi. Sinenkosi Mpili. Jessica Peterson. Bertram van Zyl. In mathematical statistics, Seth Irwin. Ofensa Kantikoe. Innocent Goitejo. Olebogeng Lechuiti. Yolanda Magnocole. Malekunutu Matsepe. Kutluano Mbonani. Tisetso Mulata. Ikiolua Oyeboade. Niraf Pema. Loasi Sibagnoni. Medical Sciences, François Roberts. Sipu Silamulele. In microbiology, Elish Hardy. Reinhard Kuhn. Vereshni Paul. Physics, Emmanuel Boysens. In zoology, Joshua Hoekstra. Ikram Jalalpur. Liz Marie Lombard. Therese Viljoen. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in Agricultural Economics and Agribusiness Management, Giovanni Boni. Abraham Pieterse. Tlotlejo Chejare. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in Animal Science, Laurens Grobler. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in Applied Plant and Soil Sciences, Pieter Blichnout. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in Plant Pathology, Moshe Molemela. Mr. Interim Vice-Chancellor and Principal, the following candidates have complied with all the requirements for the degree Bachelor of Science in Geography, Geography and Environmental Science, Charlton Denga.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us give our graduates a big hand for the hard work. I also observed once again, Mr. Dean, that the majority of distinctions are from women. So I would now like to request our graduates to applaud their families and sponsors and spouses for the support that they've given you over these many years. We have now come to the end of the proceedings, and before I close, Registrar, last time I read a statement here that says there were refreshments, and I just saw water outside. But it's probably, but check it out yourselves, what you know. I don't want to commit myself. But there's something out there. Now, you are requested to stand and, for the singing of the national anthem, and to remain standing until the assembly has been dissolved, And in the academic process, we then leave the auditorium. And I'm sure all of us can sing the national anthem. We will be led by, you will hear the music just now. National anthem, please. By virtue of the authority entrusted to me, I now dissolve this Assembly of the University of Pretoria.